Hello everyone, my name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, written by Ursula Guin. Now, before I go into the summary and analysis of this short piece of literature, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas is a very interesting short story. It has a lot to do about philosophy, and it says a lot about our world in general. I made a summary and analysis about this short work before, but I only covered the summary part or just what happens in the summary part. But in this video, I want to talk more. I want to cover the summary, but at the same time, I want to talk about the analysis and the philosophy that also exists in this short work. So basically, in the summary portion, what happens within the ones who walk away from Amalas is that we are introduced to this place, Amalas, where everything is perfect, everything is wonderful. Everyone gets along there. There's no crime. It's just a festival. Everything is happy. There's food. Business is booming. Everyone in Amalas have the perfect life. Um, Kids are not mad or sad or poor or going hungry. The adults are, just happy. People are indulging in drugs, and there's nothing wrong with this anomalous. People are indulging in alcohol. People are just having, the best time that they can. There's no crime. It's just like it's painted to be like a paradise. Everything is just perfect. The farmers have the perfect crops, and everyone is just wonderful. There's only one catch. There's only one catch in Omelas, and is that at a certain age, everybody in Omelas, they are told or they are brought to see this child that has been kept in this government building or this place where this child cannot leave. This child has to stay there and suffer. The child sits in its own feces. There's a mop and a bucket and utility like things to clean with in the room, and the child is afraid of it. The child's never been to school. It doesn't have family members to love it. It has nothing. They bring it food, a few times a day just so that it can eat and stay alive. And the belief is that this child is the reason why everybody in Amalas is just having a great life, and it's the reason why everybody in Amalas is just so happy. Everyone in Amalas believes that if this child were to be let out, that Amalas would just be destroyed, the economy would just go bad, the farmers would have horrible crops, the kids wouldn't be happy, everything would be horrible in Amalas. So, from everyone, from the adults, from the senior citizens, everybody kind of agrees in Amalas that we have to keep this child in misery, that we have to mistreat this child. Because if we do, bad things are going to happen. And they kind of like justified by saying, this kid has been in confinement since forever. If we take it out, if we take the kid out now, it's not going to know how to socialize. It's not going to know how to lead a normal life. We're giving it food. It's okay. It's okay. We're feeding it. We're keeping it alive. Its life is not that bad. This kid is making me money. It's keeping me wealthy. It's making my farm work well. There's nothing wrong with it being in misery. There's nothing wrong with that. So they kind of justify it. They try to like say that they're not doing anything wrong here. And so they go with this, but not everyone in Amalas believes that this kid should suffer for their own benefit. Some people who go and see this child and see the misery and the suffering that this child is going through, no one has ever been nice or kind to this child. No one has ever hugged or comforted this child. Some people, when they go see this child, they just feel the sadness, they feel the misery, they feel the darkness in this dark and ominous room that this child is living in. And what they basically do is they walk away from Omelas, they leave the city, and they just leave. The narrator just tell us that the narrator says he doesn't know where they're going, he doesn't know where they're going to. It's just they leave the city because they can't take that this child is suffering. And that's pretty much how the story of the ones who walk away from Omelas takes place. Now, the philosophy part of this story is very interesting. It is a philosophical work. It says a lot about humans and our choices. Now, the basic idea that's going on in the story is utilitarianism, and it's this part of utilitarianism that basically states that um, you do the most good for the most people, and that you can also see that in the trolley problem, where you have train tracks, and there's one side of the train tracks, there's like four or five people tied on one side, and on the other side there's only one person. And let's say you're walking past by this and you're on a platform, and on this platform there's two levers, and you have to decide which lever to pull. Should you pull one lever that kills the four or five people, or the other lever that kills the one person? And then according to utilitarianism, you should pick. You should decide to pull the one that kills one person because it will save four or five people. So that thought, kind of like that concept, kind of like it's the most good. You want to do the most good. You want to save the most people. So you kind of save the four or five people and let that one person dies. It's something that everyone faces, at some point in their lives. It doesn't always have to be with murder or killing someone to save somebody else. The United States have gone through this when the United States decided to drop nuclear bombs in Japan. At that point, the president had to think about: do I want to save my people, fellow Americans or millions of Americans, or lose the war, or do I want to kill a few people or a few thousands of millions of people in cities and save myself? So sometimes you have to think about what is going to cost me the greatest happiness, or what's going to cause my people the greatest happiness, or what's going to cause the greatest happiness for me, and kind of destroy the lesser amount. So in utilitarianism, you kind of forget about the consequences of you basically want to do the most good. So anything else doesn't matter. You try to not think about anything else. You just want to do the most good. And that is just one principle of utilitarianism. There's Utilitarianism has a lot of different aspects of it. And there's several different parts of it that come out, or several different groups of people that make different additions to it. There's active utilitarianism and rule utilitarianism. But in Omelas, it's kind of like that universal idea that exists in utilitarianism, that kind of states that you want to do the most good for the most people. And in this city, what's going on is that a lot of people are willing for the people in the city. They're much more likely, and they're happy to live off of the misery of this one kid and have their lives go perfect and wonderful, and let this one kid suffer because they're happy. There's a bunch of kids that they're saving, because if they were to let this kid out of the closet, if they were to help this kid out and give it proper food and proper care, a lot of other kids would be in misery, and a lot of kids in the city would they wouldn't have great lives. And it's something to think about, because let's say you had the ability to, let's say a million people in the world, they would have to suffer for their entire lives, and every other problem in the world would be fixed. If you had the choice to fix every single problem, make the earth a paradise, but all you had to give up is a million people that would have to suffer for their entire lives. There's some people that wouldn't just throw that away. Some people would think about it. Some people would try to say, I'm saving millions and upon millions and making life better for a lot of people. Some people might be willing to let a million people suffer to save the billions and other billions in the world. So it's a tough decision to make. And it's a moral and ethic decision that involves ethics that you have to make. It's not an easy decision. Some people, if we go back to the trolley problem, some people might just choose to walk away. They don't want to decide to kill four or five people, or one people. Sometimes you can't make that decision, and you just choose to walk away. So it's a tough decision to make, and it's a decision that I think we as individuals make in our lives every day. And that is one of the central questions that the story, The Ones Who Walk Away, from Omelas ask is, what are you willing to do? If you lived in Omelas, and living in Omelas would be great, life would be perfect. You wouldn't have any problems to deal with. Would you be willing to live in Omelas knowing that this one kid is suffering for your benefit? So that's a philosophical question that we all have to answer at some point. And I think the reality of Amalaz exists in the world in several different ways. I mean, several governments around the world in different countries around the world. Sometimes a lot of people, you turn a blind eye to what your government might be doing so that you can just live a peaceful life. Sometimes governments do a lot of things that can be cruel and unusual, that can be going over the lines of right. And sometimes governments go into other countries and do certain things in other countries that we might not stand for, but we kind of like look away because our governments give us a good life, and we can live privileged lives and have good economy, good jobs. So sometimes we're willing to look away, even though that they might be doing things that we don't stand for, to kind of protect um, what how we're living. So even though you think this is just a story and you just think that it's just a story of Romulus, but I think it's really a story of the world, because if you live in a country, and mostly everybody on the planet lives in the country, sometimes your government will probably do certain things to other groups of people that are probably things that you don't stand for. So in of a way, we kind of all live in Omelas. The only problem is that we can't you can't really walk away from your country or your nation. You can't really leave your version or our version of Amalas. So that's really it. That's the story of The Ones Who Walk Away from Amalas by Ursula K. Le Guin. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.